So basically, which questions, which problems do you apply DP in? So the thing is that you are given a bigger problem, okay? If you see that you can divide it into sub problems such that it uh, follows these two properties on the left, that is optimal substructure property and overlapping subproblems, then we can apply the DP over there. Okay, let's try to understand these two things. So for example, a big problem is there. If we divide it into smaller problem, so whatever is the optimized solution, optimized answer for the sub problem, that will actually contribute to the uh, total optimized solution of the big problem. So that was the first thing. Then overlapping subproblems. So there can be a case when we are subcomputing these subproblems, what we will see is, so for example, this was subproblem 1, this was subproblem 2. We can see that while calculating the subproblem 1, we were actually again calculating subproblem 2, right? So while calculating the subproblem 1 itself, we might have calculated subproblem 2 here, but again, we will be calculating another subproblem 2. So let's look at an example first to actually understand this. So for example, you have Fibonacci number, okay? So Fibonacci, so everyone knows what is a Fibonacci sequence. So Fibonacci of n equals Fibonacci of n minus 1 plus Fibonacci of n minus 2. So this is the main function. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2 plus 3, 5, 5 plus 3, 8, 8 plus 5, 13, and so on. So this is the Fibonacci sequence. Now, if we see this particular function, here we can see that the bigger problem is being computed from the smaller problems. Like this can be reduced, this bigger problem can be reduced to the smaller problems in n minus 1 and n minus 2. So let's try to create Fibonacci of 6. So it will be summation of Fibonacci of 5 plus Fibonacci of 4. Fibonacci of 5 will be summation of Fibonacci of 4 plus Fibonacci of 3. Then Fibonacci of 4 will be summation of Fibonacci of 3 plus Fibonacci of 2, and so on. And this, let's check Fibonacci of 4, it again Fibonacci of 3 and Fibonacci of 2. So here you can see that here we have Fibonacci of 4 that is being computed again. And like if you see Fibonacci of 3, so here we have Fibonacci of 3, here Fibonacci of 3, here Fibonacci of 3. So we will be computing the overlapping subproblems again and again. So that is the second property here. Okay, so one was that we are there's a way to reduce a bigger problem to the subproblems. Also, the optimized solution of the subproblem is contributing to the optimized solution of the bigger problem. Then another thing, that we have some overlapping problems for which if we would have stored the previous computation, for example, if we would have stored the previous computation for f of 4 somewhere, then again when this computation was required, we could have directly fetched the value from the stored space, right? So this is a sub overlapping subproblem. So we can optimize it by using by actually storing the pre-computation, storing the values, so that we don't require to recompute the subproblems again. So this was the whole idea of dynamic programming, like in which problems we can apply the dynamic programming. Now let's move on. So okay, now let's look at the approach of this. So basically we have two approaches here. One is top down and another is bottom up. So today we will just build a logic. So top-down memorization. So in this, what we are doing is we are starting from bigger value. Okay. So let's take Fibonacci example only, Fibonacci of 4. So Fibonacci of 3 plus Fibonacci of 2, then Fibonacci of 2 plus Fibonacci of 1. So let's say we have these as base values, f of 1, f of 0. Okay. So what we will be doing here is, so in top-down approach, basically we will be using recursion. We will be moving on to that also. So we will be writing a recursion function for this one, and how it will go. So for example, we are calculating for Fibonacci of 4. Okay, so this is the function that Fibonacci of n minus 1 plus Fibonacci of n minus 2. So first of all, n minus 1 will be calculated, and for to calculate this, we again come to this one. So it will be like, first of all, this will be written Fibonacci of 1 here. Okay, then Fibonacci of 0 will be written, and we will evaluate Fibonacci of 2. We can do memoization here. So memoization means just store the pre-computations. Okay, so what we will do, we will just store it somewhere. So let's say we have stored that Fibonacci of 2 is something. Okay, now similarly, for f of 3, we will, this f of 1 will return and f of 3 will be calculated. We can just store this also. So Fibonacci of 3 equals something like this. Then we will go to Fibonacci of 2. Fibonacci of 1 will, sorry. So when we are checking for Fibonacci of 2 here, we can just directly check whether we have a stored value previously or not. Okay, like, do we need to recompute it again or not? So we see that this value is already there with us, so we can just directly return it over here, and we need not compute this. So so for example, if you see dynamic problems, so wherever you are finding this recursion kind of problems, so there may be a chance when there are many branches, it will go to exponential time, but you can reduce it to polynomial time in a very efficient manner, just by storing these computations, because every computation will be done only once then. So for example, if it was Fibonacci of 4, so you can just imagine it like a array. So Fibonacci of 0, Fibonacci of 1, Fibonacci of 2, Fibonacci of 3, Fibonacci of 4. Let's say it like this. So what you did was, you computed Fibonacci of 0, you computed Fibonacci of 1, you computed Fibonacci of 2 only once, you computed Fibonacci of 3 only once, and you computed Fibonacci of 4 from Fibonacci of 3 and Fibonacci of 2. So what you did was, you just stored all of these values, you computed all of these values just once, and if there was a recomputation required, you just directly accessed it. So just tell me how many computations you will require here. You will require only order of n computations. So order of n space will be required here. If you go with, so we will optimize these things also. So let's first try to understand what is the difference between the top down approach and bottom approach. So this was the top down approach, okay, what we discussed with the recursion. So we will just create a function here. So Fibonacci of n is equals to Fibonacci of n minus 1 plus Fibonacci of n minus 2. We will code also. But if it was tabulation, bottom up tabulation. So what we could have done is, we could have just iterated from left to right on this array. And what we could have done is, for example, Fibonacci of 0 is 0, Fibonacci of 1 is 1. So what we could have done is, we could have just iterated, and for calculating Fibonacci of I with the same method, Fibonacci of n minus 1 plus Fibonacci of n minus 2, we could have just done the summation of this. So 0 plus 1 will be 1, then 1 plus 1 will be 2, and then 1 plus 2 will be 3. So what will be the answer? Fibonacci of 4 will be 3. This was the, here we will use iteration. So this is the second one. Memoization, recursion was the first one. So these two are the basic approaches that we take for any of the problems that needs to be solved by the dynamic programming. Okay, is all this clear till now? Any doubt so far? Okay, I hope there is no doubt. So factorial of a number. So just what will be the recursion of this, for example? Factorial of n is equals to n into factorial of n minus 1. This will be the recursive function, and you should also always provide base condition for the recursive one, for the recursive functions. Otherwise, they won't end, and there will be what? Stack overflow, right? So all these functions are going to be called in this pattern. So for example, Fibonacci of 1000 is called. So for that, we will evaluating Fibonacci of 999, then Fibonacci of 998, and so on. So what happens is at the last we will have Fibonacci of 1 and Fibonacci of 0. So these values will be returned over there, and this will keep on returning, and we will calculate the Fibonacci of 1000. So this is how the recursion works basically. So to prevent stack overflow, always look out for the base conditions. Now, how will you write the base conditions? We will see in the problems also. Some hard problem like the tiling dominoes problem, like how to write the base condition over there, even when it is challenging your logical evaluation of the problem. So base conditions will be basically like, for example, let me just tell you in brief. So for example, whatever expression you have calculated, okay. So just have some initial values, and after that just check if this function is giving the right answer to you guys, if computed on the previous values. So if this function is giving, then these base values are the sufficient enough. So minimum of these base conditions, whatever are required, we will just specify them. These will be our base conditions to end the recursion. Otherwise recursion will go on and it will give us the stack overflow. So let's move on. So we have Fibonacci number here. Okay. So this already we see. That's all. So let's move on to this count ways to reach nth stair. So till now there are no doubts, right? Please anyone acknowledge.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So count ways to reach the nth stair. So this is our problem. So for example, we are given this staircase. Okay, and we have to reach the nth stair. So this is our n. We are starting from where the person can climb. Okay, we are starting from 0, let's assume. So the person can climb either one stairs or two stairs at a time. So from here, a person could have either jumped one stair and could have come here, or he could have jumped two positions and he could have come here. So if you see how we can reduce this bigger problem to a smaller problem. So let's look out, like we are calculating it for what? So it's a function of n. We want to return the number of ways to reach the nth stair. What we will do? So just check how we can reduce it to the smaller problem. So for a smaller problem, from where we could have come? We could have either come on this place, either from the previous stair, or this one, right? Because the guy would have either climbed up one stair or two stairs. So what it seems to be is f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2. Okay, and this is the same as Fibonacci. We will code this also because we are going to learn some more concepts while coding in this. So let me just go to that tab. Okay, so this is the same problem. So we have, let's solve it by recursion first. Okay, we will move on to harder problems once we have built the logic. So what we are doing, we have to build a recursive function. So so I will be calling one function here. Let's call it base of n. This I'm doing because so that later on I can add a DP to it and see how the problem complexity has changed. Okay, so we have this function base int base. Now it is taking int n. Now what? We have to return what? Return is of n minus 1 plus base of n minus 2. What will be the base condition? Please check if this base condition is right. So for example, what will be the base condition for 0? To come to the 0 state, we require 0 steps. To come to the first state, we require only 1 step. To come to the 2 states, we can do it in 2 ways. We could have either took the 1 step, or we could have directly jump it like 1 step twice, or we could have directly taken the 2 step, right? So there are 2 ways basically. So base condition here is if n is less than 2, if n is less than equals 2, then return n. Otherwise return base of n minus 1 plus base of n minus 2. So that seems to be okay.
Yes, sir.
Any change you see here? Any mistake? Or we can just compile it? So this was the basic recursive function for this one. Let's submit it. So what is it showing to us? Time limit exceeded, right? So it was a very basic recursive function. So how we can reduce the time here? Please, any one of you suggest? We will be using DP here. We will be storing the subproblem computation so that we don't compute it again when that is required. So let's take it here, vector of int v. Here inside this count function, what we could have done is v dot resize, resizing it to what? N plus 1, comma. Let's initialize it to -1. Is that okay? Then we have to, so what will this function do? So this is STL container vector. So let me expand this. It comes from this bits/stdc++.h file. So this is the library which will bring all of the containers and functions inside this STL. We could have used like hash include, and inside this angular brackets we could have just directly written vector here to just include the vector container. So this is the best programming practice, to not include all the containers, but to include the particular one which we require. So you can always look for this code, whatever is given in the coding round. So they may ask you to write the partial code also. They may ask you to write the full code also. So here we can directly include, you can declare a vector here, vector of int we have declared. So inside this angular brackets, you can provide any object type, and you will be creating a vector. So vector is nothing but array. So it will be array of integers, but we are having some inbuilt functions on top of that array. So you can just consider it like that. So here we are resizing it. So its vector property is that it can resize itself very dynamically. So you can actually, so not like array where we have to declare the size previously. So here we have done v dot resize, and we are declaring a vector of n plus 1 with, and initializing all the values with -1. So just letting you know, if in case you don't know. Then what we are doing here is, so let's check inside this. So let's also write down the base condition. If we find that dp, okay, I've declared it v. So let's write down as dp itself. So if dp of what n is already there, not equals -1, then what we should do? Should we compute it again? So what does that mean? If dp of n is not equals to -1, that means we have already computed that sub problem. So we need not require to recompute it again. So we can just directly return dp of n minus 1 here. Sorry, n. Is that all right? Otherwise, what will we do? We will return ways of n minus 1 plus ways of n minus 2. But here we are computing it again. Here we are computing it for the first time because it was not there in the DP. It was not stored in the DP earlier. So here, what we are doing is we are computing it, but we need to store it so that next time, if it is asked, this value is asked, we don't recompute it again. So DP of n is equals to ways of n minus 1 plus ways of n minus 2. So this is what we are returning here. Let's compile this code. Everything seems to be perfect, right? Let's submit it. So here we are getting a wrong answer. Can anyone please explain me why we are getting this wrong problem, wrong answer, and what we should do to actually resolve it?
That's it's integer overflow, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes, right, right. This is integer overflow. So how should we resolve this problem?
So like in C++, we use long int.
Okay, that is one case. What else in integers?
Modulus 10 to the power.
Modulus, right, right. So what happens is so this you will find it in majority of the problem. So after actually compiling it, you may find that you are having an integer overflow. So it's always better to always take a modulo. So 10 to the power 9 plus 7, that is the value, right? So this is the value. This is a magic number. So actually it is a prime number and you could have taken any other prime number also, but this is the best programming practice to take this 10 to the power 9 plus 7. It is a standard. So let's compile and run. So even in the coding rounds, if you are getting integer overflow, so just try to take yeah, so we got the correct answer here. So try to always take the modulo where we can have an integer overflow. So here we were having addition. Instead of addition, there could have been multiplication or any other operation, right? So wherever you are seeing that there could be overflow, integer overflow, always take modulo of 10 to the power 9 plus 7. Okay, then let's move back. Was this problem clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay, just tell me one more thing. So this was a recursion, okay? And there could have been any number of steps. For example, instead of n minus 1 and n minus 2, they could have given you like, you could have taken 4 steps or 3 steps, something like that. So what will be the function? Like, for example, if they give you, you can take either 4 steps or 3 steps.
The one n minus 1 and n minus 2 will change to n minus 3 and n minus 4.
Right. So this will change to this particular problem. Okay, nice. So this is how we are reducing a bigger problem to the smaller problems, and then we can just directly apply recursion over there, because like whoever finds recursion easy, they can go via that approach. Whoever finds the iteration easy, they can go via that approach. So we will discuss iteration also, just to have the concept clear right now itself in the beginning. So for example, so this was the whole case of the recursion where we actually made a recursion of this, and what we did was memoization. So in memoization, we stored the already computed values of the subproblem so that we don't recompute it again. Instead of this, we could have just written a for loop here for I equals, for example, 2 and I less than equals n I plus plus, like declaring an array of size n plus 1. And what we could have done is we could have just written like dp of, sorry, arr. Okay, so arr of n I equals arr of I minus 1 plus arr of I minus 2. So this will also solve the same problem, and he return the arr of n at the last. So you will also have to declare the arr of 0 and arr of 1. So arr of I, when you have declared, you can just declare arr of 0 as 0 and arr of 1 as 1. Is it okay? So yeah, everyone is getting this iterative approach also. So this is what we call as the tabulation method. Here we are just having an array of n plus 1. So we will be having an array and we will be iterating from left to right. So so this left to right, what does that mean? These are the smaller problems. And this is the big problem. So what will we do? We will just solve it for the smaller problem. We will say, okay, he has to reach the nth stair. So let's find out how much, what will be the answer for the second stair. Then let's calculate for what will be the answer for the third stair. Then let's calculate for the fourth stair, fifth stair, sixth stair, and so on. And then we will calculate for the bigger problem. We will then see for the bigger problem. So this is the tabulation method. So we have discussed both the methods. Now you can use any method, any strategy in the questions that we are going to follow. So I will be discussing one among the two, whichever I find the best. Okay. So everything is clear till now, right? Okay. So yeah, Anup, you can just check we were just discussing the basics of dynamic programming, like in which problems, in which scenarios do we apply the dynamic programming. Also, what are the different approaches to apply the dynamic programming. Then we just solved one problem and understood some scenarios from there, like we should take, like how to prevent the integer overflow and how to actually prevent this time limit exceeded by using the DP. So right now we are at the longest increasing subsequence. You can check out the recording later as you join late.